Hi there, my name's Ben and I like to read. Today we're going to be reviewing a book by Christopher Hitchens, Thomas Jefferson, author of America. So just a little bit of background about Christopher Hitchens to start off with, because this is the first book that we are reviewing by him. And Christopher Hitchens was born in the United Kingdom, moved to the United States when he was in his 30s, and I would say he's most famous for his public speaking on issues such as religion and how it is the source of all evils, which is fairly influential, at least to me and to a lot of other people. He was considered, along with Richard Dawkins, Professor Daniel Dennett, and Professor Sam Harris, to be one of the four horsemen of new atheism. He did unfortunately pass away in 2011 due to complications from throat cancer, but not before leaving us with an unbelievable bibliography and a real impression as to what it means to think independently and to be a contrarian. So I hope I do Mighty Hitch such justice with such a short synopsis on his life. However, let's get into the book review itself. So he wrote this book, Thomas Jefferson, author of America, for, I believe, what are these called? They're these short little biographies that aren't necessarily official biographies, because and again, I'm not the biggest fan of reading a biography to begin with, just because it's a tendency to, they're very biased. Two, they dap the person up where they don't necessarily need to be dapped up. And it's just, you can tell, especially autobiographies, is this was written by a ghostwriter. Come on now. But, yes, Eminent Lives is a series where these biographies are almost like an essay. They're very succinct. This one itself is just short of 200 pages. So, I finished this in about a day. And it provides a really, really fascinating insight into perhaps one of the most influential Americans of all time, Thomas Jefferson, the guy who helped to write the Declaration of Independence, who helped to shape essentially modern America, the modern United States. He, negotiated the Louisiana Purchase, which essentially doubled, the United States' landmass overnight. He, as president, he essentially is the father of their Navy when he sent the fledgling U.S. Navy onto the Barbary Coast, which is now North Africa, in a punitive expedition when they were raiding American shipping. But not only does it focus on that, but it also focuses on him as a young man, about him, as a planter in Virginia, someone who was a tedious speaker but a fantastic writer, someone who was, who outwardly was almost reluctant to take important office, yet truly craved to be in positions of importance. Someone who was very, very capable at the political game, yet yearned for the country lifestyle of a Virginia gentleman. And of course, perhaps most importantly, someone who wrote such unbelievably moving words of equality and justice, yet owned slaves. And Christopher Hitchens, in this short biography, does not shy away from any of that. If anything, he sort of embraces the dualistic nature that Jefferson exhibited. It's very well researched, and just Christopher Hitchens has such a way with words. It's to quote somebody else, not describing Hitchens, it would be to I think it was an old Anglican bishop who was describing what heaven would be like, and he described it as eating foie gras to the sound of trumpets, and that is what reading Christopher Hitchens is like. It's smooth. It's so, how else to describe it? It's an iron fist that's within a silk glove. It's soft to the touch, yet it stays with you. And it's just a testament to how great of a writer he is. He was one of, and still remains, one of the most influential modern thinkers. And it makes complete sense why he would be the one to do a biography of Thomas Jefferson, someone who Hitchens had long considered to be a hero, someone who is inherently full of contradictions, and who was a little bit of a contrarian himself, someone who, not just a contrarian, but someone who loved life, someone who enjoyed a drink or two, someone who enjoyed tobacco, someone who enjoyed the company of women, someone who enjoyed just a good conversation, and who most of all enjoyed to read and enjoyed learning. Someone who was for all intents and purposes human. And I think that's the great strength of this book, because Hitchens is able to not pedestalize Thomas Jefferson. He's able to, bring out the qualities and bring out the topics of which we should praise Jefferson for, and we should praise him for them. I mean, his achievements notwithstand, his achievements do stand the test of time. The United States would not be the nation that it is today, for better or for worse, without his work. And at the same time, he doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of, his slave ownership, his, somewhat, racist views. So his, but not only that, also his willingness in his youth to engage in, in petty sectarian squabbles about religion. And it's a unique biography because it doesn't pull its punches in any way. It's equal parts defender and castigator. But the core tenet is that, yes, none of us are perfect. And a fundamental error when we look at our heroes, or when we look at famous people, or when we look at influential people, is we do have a tendency to only see the marble bust that has been carved of them. We only see that stately, that celebrity, that immense charisma that they all exude, and we forget that, yes, they are people too. They have contradictory views, some of which are absolutely repugnant and disgusting. Yet that can't detract from the awe that they inspire in their achievements. And it's those achievements, again, that it's not so much that we can focus on, but what makes it a more interesting topic for discussion is not those achievements themselves, or the negative aspects of their of their character, but it should be that dissonance between the two. That's the space that we should be discussing. It's how could someone who is capable of writing and truly believing something like Jefferson did, with regards to, all men are created equal, and still own human property. That's what Hitchens does. That's the strength of this book, and this is what he does. He takes that dissonance and he says, this is what we should be focusing on, not just when we're discussing Jefferson, but when we're discussing any other figure, Hitch himself included. So, my final thoughts on this. Read it. It is, again, like I said, eminent lives. It has multiple short biographies, and I'll read what it is here. They're succinct, essayistic, and enlivened by a strong point of view. The Eminent Lives series joins a distinguished literary tradition. Great writers on great figures, short biographies, perfect for an age short on time. And with this, there is absolutely no excuse for anybody to skip out on this book. If it's lack of time, again, the way that Christopher Hitchens writes, you're not going to want to put it down. Not to mention, it's 187 pages, if that. you can finish it in a day. If you're not interested in the subject matter, okay, I can concede that as a potential, as a potential, perhaps you might want to skip it out. But Thomas Jefferson is such an interesting human to begin with, his achievements and his faults notwithstanding. And I think that, again, I'm really happy that Christopher Hitchens wrote this book. I'm really happy that I read it, because now it was iconoclastic for me because I used to have this view of Thomas Jefferson as this, again, this marble bust. It's like, oh yeah, he was a great man. And then, of course, then you learn about, okay, yeah, well, he owned slaves, and it's like, okay, well, then the marble becomes tarnished, but that's not ultimately it. Ultimately, he's a man to begin with, who's just as flawed as you or I, and he's just a regular man who did great things, and that's all that we can aspire to be. So, if you've already read it, let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below. If you haven't read it and would like to, pick it up and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.